Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the 505 Podcast. We're back, one day late, but it doesn't matter.
Right, it doesn't matter.
Because of Thanksgiving, kind of threw everything off, and then we decided to all go out of town to just different places. It's
and
great.
we're just the busiest boys in the whole world right now.
Yeah, so I was in SAC with the Lakers.
I'm shooting this Kia thing with one of my favorite photographers in the whole world, which is crazy. I met him the first day, and I was like, "Sup, dude?" Like trying to be cool, like I wasn't like freaking out. Yeah, there's a hair on my mic, but it's all
Here we
good.
go.
Really
hey, that's a good friend.
Thanks.
It is a good friend. I appreciate that. And I was trying to be cool, and I held it together for about 3 minutes, and then I was like, I just gotta say, like, I follow you on Instagram, and like you're like my favorite photographer. And he's like, really? And I was like, yeah, like I mean, like automotive, like you're the best one. And it's been so fun, dude. We've just been killing it.
Now you guys are boys.
We've just been hanging out and shooting this Kia documentary together. He's shooting the photos. I'm just shooting him, shooting the photos, like getting some fun stuff, directing him. It's been a blast. And he's giving me some nuggets of wisdom too.
Good wisdom.
We'll discuss later on the pod, maybe.
I also think what's so cool about that is like any time that you look up to someone in a field. Yeah, we had some drinks in here with some.
It's a little icy. Yeah.
Anytime you get to work with someone in your same field that you look up to, but you're kind of on the same playing field as him because you're also there to shoot.
Right.
So you kind of get to shoot the shit. He sees you as an equal and like, I think that's just awesome.
It's a lot easier to make connections when you both got a camera in your hand.
Yeah.
You know? Like, and it's not like, it's like we approach it as peers and it like, I don't know. I could just fanboy. His work is so fucking cool.
It's pretty badass.
We all follow him. He's pretty talented.
But you had fun, and now we're all back, and we're getting the pod back on track.
We are.
Yeah.
This pod specifically is going to be probably just one of the most value-packed episodes we've dropped. If you're not, interested in probably being into filmmaking or cameras, it probably won't be super fun.
But sometimes you just like hearing about gear.
Sometimes you might just get bored and want to hear about some fun camera shit.
You're going to hear three guys really nerd out about a very particular thing, and that might be fun for you. Because like, it's about to get real.
We love this shit.
And we do this every day. So this is just another day at the office.
This is an every night occurrence in the 505 apartment.
So yeah, so this episode's all about gear. What gear we like to use, what gear we recommend at all price points. If you're just starting out or you're, a seasoned vet in the game, we're going to kind of just talk through that. But speaking of gear, something happened to me yesterday on set that has never happened to me regarding gear. So I go to shoot in Beverly Hills, little real estate action, and I go to turn on my camera, and
as one does.
It's good. It's a good first step.
Yes.
I always say that.
You start with that.
That's my number one advice to creators. Turn it on. Yep.
That's great. Yeah, turn it on. And I noticed the camera's taking a little bit longer to turn on. I go, that's kind of weird. And it's in autofocus, and it just won't focus. It's just blurry. And I'm like, this has never happened. This is kind of weird. Turn it off, turn it on again. Same thing happens. I'm like, what is going on?
Rice was the next step.
Yeah, because it's wet?
Yeah, just to put it in rice.
Or rest, ice, compress, and...
there you go. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
I forgot to
just walk it off,
Yeah, just walk it off. Raise that ankle up.
Yeah. Then I noticed that the aperture's not reading. So it's like, it says F and it has 2 dashes next to it. I'm like, that's weird. I go as far as turning my camera on and off maybe 5 different times.
Sure.
I go, I don't know what the hell is going on. I've never seen this before. I factory reset my camera because I'm like, it must be my camera.
You don't want to waste anybody's time. You're trying to...
Exactly. Long story short.
Were you wait, this whole time where you're like, I just got to do like this thing. It's like every month you have to reset the camera. It's like this thing I do.
I kind of started that at the
Were you
beginning,
playing it off?
but this was I was dealing with a real estate agent that I've been working with for a long time. So we have a good working relationship.
He kind of knows.
Yeah, I go, Ben, I don't know what the fuck's going on. This has never happened before. I don't know what to do. Long story short, my 16-35 lens just broke. It's a out of nowhere.
Right?
G-Master, yeah.
Just $2,000 right there. Just broke.
Yeah.
How long you had it? 3 years?
Yeah, I've had it for a while, but it's not like I dropped it. Nothing happened. It went from working perfectly fine to not working at all, and my camera didn't register the lens.
Do you think, Braden, remember when Costa was gone in Nicaragua and we were peeing on his lenses?
Yeah, that could have been the time.
I didn't think about that.
No, but I think the G Masters are pee proof.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so I think you're good.
All right. Forgot about that.
But
Did you touch my drum set?
I'm so thirsty. I just want to drink. Okay, it's gonna be icy for the second.
It's all good.
You okay? So you broke the lens. That was bad. Not
I didn't break it.
You broke the lens.
It
You
broke by
the damn
itself.
lens.
We didn't break it.
Yeah, you broke the lens, and now you got to send it back to Sony, and it's just kind of a massive shit show when your stuff breaks.
Yeah, the only thing I learned about this like I forget the fucking name of it. There's a place you can take it near Dodger Stadium, Sony specific, and if you sign up for, it's like $100 a year to be part of this program. And you have to apply to it. You have to have at least 2 bodies and at least 3 lenses. The girl was telling me, which obviously have it. Right. That's light work. I got like 3 bodies and 4 lenses. It's all good.
Yeah, just keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
Dodger Stadium. So we have 28 different countries. So you can just fly right in, LAX, and then take the metro to Dodger Stadium.
Yeah. So you take it, and if you have this, if you have like the membership, they prioritize you and they fix your stuff within like 3 days.
That's pretty dope.
But I was talking to Braden about this. I was always under the impression that like if you sent something into Sony to get it fixed, it took like months to get back. But
it does.
Oh.
For normal people.
Right. Yeah.
If you don't have this like pro shit, which is kind of whack.
Or unless you're just like, I like to knock. I just knock. Just over and over again.
There you go.
But speaking of which, we got a lot to cover on this.
Yeah, we have so much shit to cover. We kind of just need to get into it.
Let's do it. Okay, so let's just start chronologically. Like you're starting out and then you become whatever you want to become in this space, right?
Before we get into it, I want to talk about people saying gear doesn't matter. And there's a whole thing around that. Some people say gear matters. Some people say gear doesn't matter. What do you guys think?
Mike, turn the camera on. I feel like we got a hot take coming.
Let's go.
Gear doesn't matter until it fucking does.
There we go.
I agree.
Gear doesn't matter, but
that's whatever YouTuber you watch has made some stupid ass video in the past like year and a half about how gear doesn't matter.
Gear doesn't matter.
Gear doesn't matter. It matters.
Well,
it also doesn't.
It also doesn't because it depends on what you're doing.
Exactly.
Because you can make a very compelling TikTok that goes stupid dummy viral with your phone.
Yeah, but you can't go.
But you can't show up to a commercial shoot with your phone.
Yeah.
In a box.
In a box. Unless they're paying you to use your phone for some reason. And sometimes you just need to use the right tools for the job.
There it is. The camera's only a tool. All the gear and shit, no matter how much it costs, it's all just a tool to make whatever vision it is that you have come to life.
Right.
So if you need the red and you need a sound guy and you need 3 other cameras and a bunch of lighting people, so be it. If you just need the A7S III and your one buddy, and you make a movie. And
because if you're telling like the right story, like
exactly,
if you're like a sculpture, like Tom Sachs, this artist we all look up to, like if he's making a sculpture, right, and like he can cut the wood if he needs it to be cut with a little hacksaw. That's $5 from Ace Hardware. But like sometimes he needs bigger pieces of wood because he has this big grand vision, and you need a bigger saw. And it's like it allows you to make different stuff. He can still make art with any piece of things, but like sometimes you need bigger tools to get the bigger pieces of sculpture made or like art.
And the bigger result or whatever.
There's a reason why certain camera gear costs more than others. There's a difference.
There is a difference.
And gear definitely does matter. The type of lens you use matters. Different focal lengths matter. But with that being said, if you don't have the most expensive camera gear, don't let that stop you from creating.
Definitely keep shooting no matter what.
100%.
Yeah, definitely.
So with that being said, let's start from the beginning. If you have, let's say, less than $500 to spend on gear, your budget's tight, you're just getting started into filmmaking or photography, something you want to try out, what would you guys recommend?
I mean, at that point, I think you got to just start. You got to start making stuff, right?
With whatever you have.
So just take whatever you got. Maybe you have a phone. Maybe your parents have a phone that has a camera on it.
An old like point and shoot. An old one of the handheld joints, something like that.
Yeah. And just start shooting just to see if you like it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you don't like it, you're not going to want to spend more than $500 on it. And that would suck.
100%. And you also, I think, before you purchase a camera, you purchase it with some desire, right? You're either going to be like a hobbyist with it. You're like, I want to take more pics of my family or friends. Like I want to be that person, or I want to make fun videos of us on a vacation. We're going on a vacation. Me and my buddies on a surf trip, whatever it's going to be. So you kind of got to want to buy. You got to have some urge, Don't just go out and buy a camera because they're expensive. And you know what I mean? You really got to want to do it because they're a little bit annoying to learn.
Yeah.
In the very beginning,
There's a little bit of a curve.
A little bit of a curve, just a tish. Just some settings that you kind of got to know to be able to make the things work properly and make them run the way that you're gonna want. So the image isn't just like white or black.
Right. Let's get somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, let's just get somewhere in the middle. But that's hard. Dude, it's hard to achieve. It's hard to achieve, and people years into it still mess it up.
Right. So going off of that though, then if you decide like this is something that I want to do and like at least want to play with and like want to have my hands on something that I can manipulate and change, then we're looking like what, $500 to like $1,000 range.
But under one more thing, at $500 you could get like an action camera too. Like those are solid.
GoPro.
Solid starting point. Still crappy in low light. Still just like not overall like a real camera.
Right. You can't like adjust the settings properly.
You can't adjust the settings, but it's not like you know
the new ones.
Huh?
We don't have to get into it.
Yeah. No, you can definitely adjust settings on a GoPro. Absolutely.
Can you change like aperture and shit?
Yeah. I don't know about aperture.
Not aperture.
So like, what's up?
Mic drop. I will also say though, like action cams like a GoPro, they have a time and a place.
Yeah.
It
Of
shouldn't
course.
be your
They still do.
main.
And you know where it sits for the most part?
Where?
On my shelf. That's
There
where
it is,
sits.
yeah.
That's a place where action cameras sit for most people. Let's
Hey
be
LeBron,
real.
can I hook this GoPro up to
Yeah,
you?
it's
Like,
just you'll never end up really using them so much. Anyway,
Unless you're like a pro snowboarder.
unless you're a snowboarder.
I will say though,
surfer.
like before we go on to the second tier of like a little bit higher budget, the quality of image that iPhones and phones just in general these days can produce is insane.
It's
like
insane.
you can use a phone and you can make some pretty high level stuff.
You don't have an excuse anymore.
Exactly.
If you wanted
If
to
you
make
couldn't
content,
agree more.
to not do it because of the thing right here
Yep.
in my hand. It's a phone.
The-
iPhone 12
the-
Pro Max, if you're wondering.
The other thing is I still use it for, and I saw Aaron doing this a ton, is like using it to like scout up a shot. He would like go to like a
super,
spot
yeah.
and like you look at it through his phone and like zoom in a little bit, and then he'd be like, "Can we get the car right here?" And then he would like grab his camera and like shoot it.
That's
That's
So you
great.
can use, and whenever I go on location scouts, I would just bring my phone and like take a ton of pictures, you know? Because
yeah, it's super fair. And the phone,
helpful tool.
The phones are just getting better and better. Like it's insane.
It's kind of scary. It's kind of scary.
It's kind of scary for
Kinda
us.
scary.
A little bit scary, but I mean, yeah, it's great. So let's get
Next
up.
tier.
Next tier, tier 2.
So this is, you're interested, you have a little bit more money to spend, you want to get an actual camera, you don't want to keep using your phone. I'm gonna say let's
This
say
is Christmas, baby. This
Yeah,
is
Christmas.
Christmas, baby.
Exactly.
Come on.
Yeah. Actually, it's perfect.
This
Yeah,
is
it's perfect.
Christmas, or like you work a lot of summer jobs.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Maybe maybe you're not getting the nice Christmas presents. You
Or
mow lawns,
cut some grass,
mow lawns all summer.
take out trash.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Clean trash cans like Kyle Finet.
let's say you have like five. Let's say you have. Let's say you got like $500 to $750 to spend. I'm thinking, I'm gonna recommend a Sony or a Canon. We don't really talk about Nikon on this channel.
Is that a camera brand?
Yeah,
or-
it is.
Oh, okay.
They try
What
to
do they
make
do
cameras.
again?
I think they make
Is that in the Milky Way or is it different universe?
maybe. I don't know. I think they make just pea shooters.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. But specifically, as far as models go, the Sony A6000 is a great starter camera, or the Canon Rebel series, the T5i, T7i.
T6i,
Yeah.
all those ones.
With a kit lens, you can usually get a bundle package. You'll get. I saw an A6000 with a kit lens for $650.
Amazon's got great little
yeah.
bundles with the
100%.
memory card, like a little.
Yeah.
And you can also buy used if you want to go a little cheaper, which I'm a big fan. I love buying.
Chase loves buying the used stuff.
because I don't care if it's got dings, man.
Yeah.
I like dings.
You like things, character.
Let's talk. So going off this, we all started in this price point for our
Yes,
first
this
cameras.
is my first Canon T5i.
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 Same with me.
Bougier than me. I was a T3i, but then I quickly switched to the A6000, which we just talked about. I shot all my Norway videos on that camera.
Oh, that was the one on
that
Norway?
tiny little camera. All those Norway
Yeah,
videos,
really?
and those videos like look solid.
Yeah, they
dude.
look great.
I mean, you can shoot in log on that thing. Like you can shoot in like slow mo. You can shoot. You can shoot to 1080, 24. Like that's an example of like I told all the stories I need to tell with that little camera.
100%.
That's super fair. Great starter point.
That's
this
a
is
great-
this is getting your foot in the door. This is practicing to
And
focus, shit like that.
It's actually
learning the
has-
settings.
Yeah, that's the thing is like that's where that big jump comes in because then you just have a tool that you can manipulate. You can change the aperture, you can change the shutter, you can change the ISO, and you learn how to use a camera. And those like
You got to walk so you can fly.
those thoughts, like knowing how to change those things, is you still use it on a cinema camera.
Exactly.
It's the exact same setup.
Exactly.
It's the same rules.
I think it's funny because people are like, oh, that's the red. I'm like, this thing is literally like an iPhone.
It's the same.
Literally.
So like,
Especially the red. The red's crazy.
I know. You know what I'm saying? Though you think as it gets bigger, it gets harder. It's like, no, they're way easier now.
Yeah. I mean, you do have to know about like weird cords that cost millions of dollars. And you have to put them in the right way, but.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
And that's the thing also when you're using your phone is it's on automatic. It changes the settings for you as you're recording or taking photos, right?
Yeah.
And getting an actual camera where you can learn to shoot on manual mode and learn changing the settings like
that's the whole thing. The settings are the whole thing.
Exactly. Like what is a photo or a video look like at f2.8 versus f11?
Right.
What does ISO mean?
Right.
All these terms.
If you change your ISO, but then you also change your aperture, like what does it all do to get? How does it all work together?
I remember before I got my Canon T3i, my friend Dan had like a Canon 70D, I think, and he was trying to explain aperture to me, and this was like 5th grade or something, 6th grade. Dan ahead of his time, dude. Just always been ahead of his time. He took a picture of his hand, right, at f2.8, and he's like, "Look at this picture," and then he like adjusted the shutter and like adjusted the ISO so it's the exact same exposure, but raised the f spot to like f11, and then took a picture, and he was like, "What are the difference?" And I was like, "Wow, I really like the one with like the blurry background." He's like, "How'd you do that?" And he explained to me aperture that way, and ever since then, I was like, fuck, that's interesting. Like something about that like really clicked in my brain, and like being able to manipulate the settings and like going on a walk with the camera and you're just like changing things. It just really inspires creativity, I feel like.
100%. And two, I mean, you also there's like in this little range that we're in this, what is it, 500 to
650, maybe 750 if you get a little bundle action.
Yeah, I mean,
under $1,000.
This is just all practice, kind of getting. It doesn't. This one doesn't really matter which one you get. Like, and we're saying Canon, Sony. There's also Lumix, which I don't love. I don't love the brand Lumix. There's also
Fujifilm,
I
Nikon.
can't even say that word.
Fujifilm, they got some mirrorless cameras that are coming out.
Fujifilm has some good shit. I mean, like for the most part, here's the thing: if you're listening, you say you got a Nikon, whatever.
Stop listening.
None of those beginner cameras like matter at all. You know, this is all just like getting your feet wet. Even the next tier up is still just like getting your feet wet and like learning the system.
And maybe you start to develop like a little bit of like what you like to do with the camera.
Maybe what you videos or photo or video.
Yeah.
You're kind of picking, right? This is the stage where you're like, okay, I'm interested in the photography thing really, or like really like the video stuff. You're kind of figuring out which one you kind of want to dive into, because the next jump up, you can either go a route of like, oh, this is more photo focused, or this is more
and you start to specialize more and more.
Exactly.
And more as it gets more expensive.
Exactly. As you get more expensive, the cameras solely do one thing, or they're there for a purpose.
Once you get to the tippity top, which we'll get to later.
The beauty about these cameras though is they do both photo and video, and like
Yeah,
you know, so it's like you don't have to choose like, oh, do I want to do photo or do I want to do video? It's like you have it all.
And don't make that choice too early too.
Yeah, for sure.
Because even start for the first couple of years, I went back and forth between, oh, do I like photo or do I like video? Like,
same.
I was like, oh,
same.
maybe I like that more. And then like, yeah. And now, honestly, and I was like, I'm for sure video. Now I'm kind of like half again. It's very confusing.
Really?
I like taking pictures of cars, man. It's fun. Anyways, keep going.
Real quick before we move on to the next tier, a couple other things that you have to keep in mind with a camera at this price point is it a crop sensor camera. Now, if you don't know what that means, basically, whatever focal length you're using, let's say you're using a 35 mil focal length, it's not actually going to produce a 35 mil image.
Yeah.
There's a crop. The sensor's a little bit smaller. The image isn't as high quality as a full frame camera. So there's a 1.5 times crop on these cameras. So if you're using a 35 mil focal length, 1.5 times, let's see if I can do this in my head.
About a 50.
About a 50 mil.
Yeah, you do 35 times 1.5 for those listening to get these, and it's 52.5.
Yeah, it's great.
Good stuff. Good.
So that is AB count.
So that's something to keep in mind. Let's say you have like you get the kit lens and you have an 18 mil. You're like, this isn't as wide as I maybe thought it was. Just keep in mind, it's a 1.5 crop. Because you can get these with the kit lenses, which are typically anywhere from like 16 or 18 to like 50 or 55. That allows you to have a zoom lens, which allows you to see what different focal lengths look like.
You can kind of get an idea of what you want to eventually invest in.
Yeah.
Long term.
Because I will say too, I remember I had the Canon T3i, and then before I moved on to the next body, I got a 50 mil 50 mil 1.8.
Yes,
in my kit lens,
you can get a cheap 50 mil.
Oh,
at
cheap.
any brand of camera. They always have a budget 50 mil 1.8. That's great for
I
the
recommend
nighttime.
getting that after you get this body, because the kit lens usually is like, it's like what, like 4.5 to like 5.6
aperture.
Aperture, sorry. And you can get a very different look with a 1.8, especially with the 50. And once I got that 50, it really like kind of reinvested me into the camera. I was like, oh, there's so much more to this than I thought, because I thought I learned it all in like a
If
year.
you're new to cameras, the f1.8 that he's talking about, that's just the aperture ring. Like it can open up a little bit wider on this lens, and it gives you that blurry background look if you're all the way down to f1.8.
It gives you a little more light and stuff.
A little bit more depth of field, a little bit more light, all that good stuff. Should we move on to the next section?
We should.
Real quick. So let's say you have $1,000 to $1,500 to spend. You're moving into this next tier. You have the option to get, maybe a full frame camera. Or we were talking about how, hey, maybe you still get this crop sensor body
For your first one, yeah.
for your first one, but you invest in 2 lenses. So then you can have maybe like a wide angle lens and a more telephoto lens. So then you can have versatility in your bag.
And it's kind of fun too, because then you maybe start shooting things differently. Like maybe you're like, oh, like you just force yourself to just stick with like the telephoto lens that you bought. All of a sudden you're like getting way different stuff, and it really like kind of gets that spark back in your.
The only thing I will say about your little idea with that is you kind of would have to have whatever system you'd want to stay with stuck, because the lenses are just so expensive.
It's a good point.
It's true.
You know what I'm saying? So like,
And they're crop lenses.
Exactly. So I bought Canon first, and then I ended up switching to Sony.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it really just depends on where the route you see yourself going, and kind of like feeling it out. Just feel out the waters.
Feel out the waters.
Sure.
Don't go buy every single.
That's right. Until you're like
expensive
set.
ass lens.
Yeah.
Don't ask for like. If you're a little bit better off, don't ask for like every nice ass lens, because then you might switch systems in like a few years, and you're just like shit out of luck, and you have to sell
But you can sell, and you might take a little loss, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Tier 3.
Tier 3, you got, let's say,
We're entering into like
$1,000, $1,500 range, right? We would say a Sony A6500, which is
great camera.
still a crop sensor lens. However,
It ripped. We all use that camera, right?
that was
That
all.
was my second camera.
That was my second camera too.
Sony A6500 is a little beast.
I used that camera until last year.
There you go.
dog.
I'm 26.
Let's go.
I've been doing this full time for like years, like 8.
There you
and
go.
that camera rocks, dude.
There it is.
So yeah, so we have a Sony A6500, a Sony A7 III, or the Canon R series.
The Canon R.
The Canon R. The EOS R.
The EOS R. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
That's going to cost you, you can find an A6500 for about $1,500.
And you can find probably all of them used for like $500-$600 off, whatever we say these years,
Again, sticking with Sony and Canon.
Yep.
Yeah, just to make this easier, like you guys can go do your own research. If you're like, oh, they're just slandering every other brand, like, you know what, we like dope shit around here. We're just trying to tell you guys what to buy that's like good and we trust and we actually use.
Do your own research, but we've done a ton of research. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like years of experience.
Like years of effing it up and stuff. We're just telling you stuff that's good. You can buy whatever the hell you want to buy, but like this is just off experience that works and trusted and true.
Right.
And the thing that comes with starting to spend this much money on a camera is they typically don't come with a lens. So you're spending about $1,500 to $2,000 on the higher end, like $1,800, $2,000 on just the body.
Yep.
So then you have to make the decision of, okay, what kind of lens do I want? Now, what would you guys say? What would you guys tell someone if they could only pick one lens? Like, which lens would you guys go with?
Hit it.
I'm a 24-70 guy. I've been shooting this doc. I've noticed that I've been on the 24-70 most of the time. Every once in a while, I'm like, I need to get a different kind of shot. I'll go 16-35 or the 70-200, which I love. But like, you can get almost every shot you need with that 24-70.
I think if you're doing sports, if you want to do sports, I think the 24-105 is the best overall lens, because you could get a 2x converter to shoot football and just kind of like eat it, and just like it'd be a little bit darker because it is f4. That's the only thing. It is f4. Those lenses are all f4.
But for video, like we talked about,
you're sitting at f4 for like 90% of your shit.
You don't need to go to 2.8 always. I remember when I first started, and we don't have to get into the weeds of this, I was like, you have to have the lowest f-stop as much time always. It's just not true, especially for video.
Super
and depending
true.
on what you're shooting. But
100%.
Keep going.
Another thing is with the Sonys specifically, the ISO is killer. Like it's
That means
so
it's good
great.
in low light, guys.
Yeah.
That means,
So if you can boost up the ISO, which means you're bringing in artificial light and just making the image brighter. if you have an f4 versus an f2.8, the f2.8 is going to let in more light, but if you have the f4, you can bump up the ISO. We're getting real technical right now, but yeah, so it's like, if you know, typically the f2.8 is going to cost you an extra $1,000. It's the same lens, same focal length. It's going to cost you an extra $1,000.
It gets a lot more expensive the lower that f-stop goes.
Something that you can do too is you can buy lenses. I bought my first lens that was actually a Canon lens. It was a Sigma. It was like I said, we just had an adapter, like an E-mount adapter, because I couldn't afford to buy these Sony lenses because they're like $2,000, and what like 19-year-old has $2,000 on them, or like you know what I'm saying. So I just bought a Sigma lens. It was like $750, super much more reasonable.
Yeah.
So like you can always just do research on the mount that your camera is, so then you can go look at off-brand lenses. Like Sigma makes lenses. Yeah, Sigma makes like literally the exact same lenses for Canon.
Sigma rocks.
Yeah, for the most part, like they're identical, you know. And then like, you know, Sony has Tamron. Tamron's like the knockoff company or whatever you want to call it. And they make like budget. They're just a little shittier build quality, but they pretty much, for the most part, they're not as nice, but for the most part, they'll get you the same shit to the common eye.
Yep.
Let's stick with lenses, because this is such an interesting topic, and different lenses just provide such different looks, right? So like, what lenses do you guys have in your kits? What do you guys like to use?
Right now, I just got the Canon Holy Trinity.
Oh,
I got the 16 to 35, 24 to 70, and 70 to 200.
It's kind of, dude, I like it. It's a great thing.
It covers everything. I do think it's missing some things though. I think just like some really fast primes, like some primes that go down to like 1.2 can be really fun to play with.
What's a prime?
Prime lens is a lens that does not zoom. So it's just fixed, but you usually can get a prime lens. One, they're usually smaller. They're actually quite a bit smaller. And you can usually get a lower f-stop, a wider aperture with those.
So they can be pricier too.
Sometimes. Depends.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, it depends on them.
And like, oh dude, also really quick. Speaking of lenses and everything, and this is totally off the rails, but Aaron keeps using this prism thing, like the light prism effects, on his thing. And it's not like a lens effect though. It's clearly like a piece of glass that he like fucking crafted himself, dude. There's like edges.
No, it's probably Prism Effects. It's a whole company.
No, I know, but this one is not. I know what that is.
You got a Heineken bottle.
He's using
and
like
it's famed it.
He's using like a CD.
I'm like, what is that thing? And he's like, just don't cut yourself, all right? And I'm not kidding. I could have cut myself on this thing. But anyways, yeah. So like those kind of things, we could get all into filters. We're not going to. What about you, Braden?
I think, dude, we have a 25 mil prime on the red right now, and that thing, it's so freaking sharp. It makes me want to get like 8 prime lenses and just call it a day. But here's the thing though, guys,
that's a cinema lens.
When you're doing like run and gun type of shit, and you're just like not really having time to like switch, maybe you're out in the field, you don't want to like go over to your backpack and like swap out your lens. Just get like a nice zoom lens, or invest in like the Trinity type of thing. I've found that like specifically when I'm shooting sports, I just rarely swap. And like you also see, you got to look at what other people are doing and then be like, okay, everyone's doing this like 85 mil, like 1.4 thing. Okay, maybe I stay away from it a little bit and try to do like something different.
So that's how, to be devil's advocate to myself, like creative mentor I really, really respect said like, I like shot this whole thing from him, and he's like, the focal lengths are 2 in the middle. He's like, it just doesn't look cinematic to me. He's like, either go really wide, like wider than 24, or like more telephoto than 70. He's like, don't shoot anywhere in the middle, because he's like, this is like what really feels cinematic to me. It's kind of like a Michael Bay thing, which kind of annoys me because I don't love Michael Bay as a director, but like his cinematography is insane. And like, so sometimes like it just depends on what you're trying to get. But like for like intense commercials, like really wide or really tight is kind of sick.
Yeah, for sure.
It's also just making that decision and knowing what you want, and that comes with time of like
time and style and whatever the hell you're shooting.
Yeah, and the beauty with having the zoom lenses, right, is being like, okay, I can see what 24 looks like, and I can see what 70 looks like, and like maybe I'm sticking, typically on that 24 to 35 range, and like with the 70, I'm kind of bypassing 35 to like 65. I'm like, okay, I don't really need a 50 prime. Like maybe I'll get a 35 prime or a 24 prime.
And you get to like smush the background with those telephoto lenses, which is fun. What lenses do you got other than the broken 16 to 35?
Yeah, right. So
that we may or may not peed on.
I have a broken 16 to 35. I have a 24 to 70, which, as we talked about, it's just like super versatile. It's on my body quite a bit for what I shoot depending on what I'm shooting. I have an 85 prime, which
rips.
is kind of like a cheat code.
It's so sharp,
It's
dude.
so sharp.
Oh, it's crazy.
And it's just a hell of a lens. I
Joshua
love
Tree
it.
with the 85.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
It's great.
I wasn't invited.
It was like a
You were out of town.
yeah. It was an exclusive thing.
No, you just weren't invited. Actually, you were in town
it
for
was
sure.
exclusive.
Yeah. But for a while, my only two lenses that I had were the 16 to 35 and the 85. I didn't have a 50 focal length, and I didn't find myself really ever wanting the 50. I was like, I either like it pretty wide or like, I love the way the 85 looks. So I didn't really feel like I needed the 50. And now I don't even really feel like I need a prime 50 because I have a 24 to 70. So it's like I have the 50 focal length if I need it.
And I always had just like when I didn't have as much money or whatever coming out like in college or whatever, I just had like the 16 to 35 just lived on the cam because I wanted to vlog, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, dude, that was the move because I was just like, I just can't afford a $2,000 lens.
Oh yeah.
So that's another thing, right? If you're looking into vlogging and doing maybe more social
You gotta
media
have
content,
you gotta have the wide.
you have to have the wide to film yourself. So
Yep.
maybe a 16 to
Gotta.
35 is more your route than a 24 to
If
70.
you're just vlogging 1635 right in the pocket.
That's
Yeah.
the prime time right there. 16
prime
to
time,
35.
but it's not
Oh.
prime.
Prime
But it's
time.
but it's not
It's a
prime.
prime time.
But it's not prime.
It's a prime time.
Wisconsin.
The last lens that
Ducks.
the last lens that I have is, I just recently got it, is a 12
Wow.
to 24.
Which is just,
Super wide.
I'd say that's more one like, yo, I have like,
I'm shooting concerts.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly,
It's like
yeah.
it's got a time
Or
and a
real
place.
estate, yeah.
Or real
Yeah.
estate, or
like
football
skateboard
stadiums,
videos?
Yeah.
or skateboard
Skateboard
videos.
videos.
I just
Football
needed-
stadiums. That was
yeah.
Something like that.
I just needed something
Ducks.
mad wide for these concerts. Also because I'm doing both photo and video and running a 2-camera setup. It didn't make, I was like, the first time I shot, I didn't have the 12 to 24. So I was switching my 16 to 35 between my photo camera and my video camera, and it was just a mess. So like now it's nice to have two wide lenses,
sure.
keep the 16 to 35 for video, keep the 12 to 24 for photo.
And also just have an insanely badass collection of lenses.
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
Yeah.
But now kind of what you're talking about, like you are a Sony boy.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're,
Oh, I'm deep in it.
No,
You're deep in it.
exactly.
I ain't
And there
changing.
is no turning back.
You have
for
too much Sony,
Kosos.
unless someone like gives you a weird offer. You have you're a Sony boy forever.
Forever.
Which is
Yeah.
fine. Great brand.
Yeah. Also, it's crazy what 4 millimeters can do.
That's what I
Really?
tell my girlfriend all the time,
It's crazy.
every night.
There's a big difference with 4 mil.
You know, it's
Yeah.
not. Gear doesn't matter. You know, gear doesn't matter. It's
Do
the
I
story
know how
you
to use it? It's the story I tell. Exactly. I know how to change the settings.
tell. Right. Yeah.
Oh, it caught me so off guard. Just wasn't ready for it at all.
That's great.
But anyways, cuz it's tough.
But yeah,
Just 4 of them.
it's crazy. It's crazy how much wider a 12 mil lens is than 16, and 4 millimeters makes a big difference.
Yes, it does.
makes a huge difference.
And now we're moving on to son of a bitch. We're moving on to reasons. Give me a lap right there.
No, we're not cutting that. I'm not
that's
giving
funny.
it to you. We're keeping it.
Wait, real quick. The cool thing about a Sony a6500, a Sony a7 III, or a Canon EOS R, you get slightly better specs, right?
Absolutely,
So now you get to film in 4K, you get to film slow-mo. These are things that are going to up your production quality. This is why you pay a little bit more money for these cameras. You just get the better specs, and also like shooting in 4 or like in 1080p 120 frames per second.
It's fun.
Oh man, it opens a
fun.
whole
So,
other
yeah,
realm of
whole nother
of
box.
Like you can
creativity.
do different creative stuff. Also, you get to charge more.
And with that jump right there from tier 2 to tier 3, when you spend like the $2,000 on these cameras, you're actually seeing like a big jump in quality, I think.
Yeah,
right.
100%.
Like you
I
look
think
at
that's where the biggest jump probably
right.
is.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
Because as you spend, once we leave this tier, like whatever, what cameras did you say? Can you run them back?
A6500, Sony A7
Once
III.
we spend like an extra $2,000 on these cameras, I feel like okay, then we get one more little tiny jump, and then it's really just like teeny
marginal.
tiny little jumps. It's like a lot of diminishing returns.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
just like you're spending a lot, but like the quality's like not that much better for
Right.
like $15,000 extra. You know what I'm saying? Like, seriously, like
Right.
you know. So it's like it is something to think about and something to really be mindful of. That as you start spending more, like don't get caught up in the gear race. Like you hear people say that all the time because like you can spend a shit ton of money on stuff and it's just like make sure it's for a reason. Make sure
Make
you're
sure
buying
it's
this
for a
shit and you're
reason.
like, I'm using it and it makes
Yep.
sense for my company or
Yeah.
my business, whatever.
Now going off that though, going into tier 4.
Tier 4.
You're
And-
playing with the big dogs.
And I'd say
now.
once you're going into tier 4, this is when you're starting to see money from
Yeah,
this.
it's
Yeah,
no
You're starting to
long-
make money with photo videos.
Yeah.
no longer a
Definitely.
hobby.
Because it
We're
doesn't
not-
make sense to spend $4,000 on a camera if you're not starting to make videos from it, unless you're just a rich guy or girl.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're tier 4. We're playing with the big dogs now. And something that's crazy with this tier and in this price point is this year specifically, there were some cameras that got released that made leaps and bounds of
In
quality.
the industry.
It really shook
In like the
things up.
prosumer space,
Yes.
right?
Yep. Being
Like-
a one-man band
Yeah.
and being able to just show up with like said bitching camera that's under $5,000.
All of a sudden, like a
And the look of
normal
it?
and like a normal freelance videographer can buy a camera that can shoot stuff that's like the highest quality.
Yeah, which could be on a bigger TV.
It can be on a
It's
OLED.
Netflix
Yeah.
approved.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Literally
It can
Netflix
literally,
approved.
yeah, and I think what was the one movie, the one show that came out that was about they killed the whales in it and it was plastic. Seaspiracy. That was shot all on an nice dude.
Yeah.
A7S III. Like, did you
Oh,
see that?
great
That was
camera.
shot. That was shot on an A7S III.
Camera Coast
Camera
has.
Coast use, which is insane. So
great
we're
camera.
seeing like a smaller pea shooter on Netflix, which is
Right.
insane.
And
great.
mind you, it looks like a pea shooter.
Rips.
Yeah.
But
Rips.
it looks like a pea shooter.
Looks like a pea shooter.
So
Pea shooters are just anything that's like,
That's not
Smaller.
red.
Yeah. So specific models that play under tier 4. We
And we recommend.
Yes, and then we recommend Sony A7S III, Sony A7R3 or 4
For photos.
for photos.
for photos, and Canon R5 or R6.
Yes.
Now, once you get into this tier, you kind of start to make a decision whether you're going more towards photo or more towards video. For example, the Sony A7S series is more video centric. The Sony A7R series is more towards photo. So once you get to this point in your career, you kind of know what you want to focus on and make those decisions.
And whatever camera line you go for is going to have, for the most part, if they're smart, like a photo thing, a video thing, like, you know what I
Yes.
mean? They're going to start to specialize when you get into that 4K range, $4,000.
Yes.
Right.
Like the R5 it's like, I think it's like literally one of the best photo cameras you can buy. It's insane.
But hybrid,
But
low
it
key,
is a
right?
hybrid, and it can do both quite well. I do
Yeah.
think the Sony does get an advantage for video. I just think it has more video options. It doesn't overheat, but it has like less megapixels because it has the higher sensitivity. You can go higher in the ISO and stuff.
All that stuff, yeah.
But yeah, like the R series is crazy, and the R6 is a little more video centric.
And the quality at this range is like, honestly, like crazy, man.
Yeah.
And it's the same. So we were just talking about this. This is like a little secret, and this is
Yeah.
getting in the weeds. But like
Yep.
the R5 has the same sensor as the Canon C300, which is like kind of their flagship
Which is like
camera.
10 racks.
It's just 10 grand. It's like their flagship camera. Same sensor, it's just a different build, and it
Yeah.
has like less settings. It doesn't have XLRs, which we can get into. A7S3, literally the same sensor as like the FX9, which is like a big old cinema camera.
Yeah.
And then they just upgraded.
FX6. It doesn't have the same as the FX9. I
Sorry,
looked it up. Yeah.
sorry.
Don't you ever take
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
I'll go to my room.
Yeah.
and
go.
Chase,
Yeah.
you're on timeout. And then Sony, out of nowhere, not sure why they did this, they gave us S-Cinetone on you could upgrade the software in the camera
To make the color science.
the color science of their cinema line, and it's unbelievable.
It doesn't make sense why they did that. I
No,
still think
they
it's
really
such a
cannibalized.
stupid marketing thing.
Because that's the thing too is
Good.
I mean,
like I'm down for it because from the consumer side, from a business standpoint, I'm just like, why?
yeah, but I like it. But
No,
you're
I'm
kind
down.
of you're kind of choosing also at this point between color sciences. Like Canon has,
Yeah.
I'd say like better color science just does, but especially for photo. But then Sony all of a sudden they really up their color science in this last line, like the A7S3, the FX3. It's just as good.
It's great.
Crazy.
It's insane. And it almost low key, like I can go shoot with that FX3 and just I don't even have to color grade if I didn't want to. No one would say anything.
Yeah.
Genuinely. In the
Right.
S-Cinetone, no one would say
Yeah.
anything.
No,
They'd be
it
like,
looks
that
so
looks
good.
great. They'd be like,
Right.
that looks great.
The one thing is though, Braden, you couldn't shoot on the FX3 because you don't have it.
Well, we will have it in a few weeks, huh?
Another thing, talking about just like the specs and talking about how great Sony is with low light. Chase and I went to this concert, right?
It's a pretty exclusive club.
Yeah, exactly. It was a club in LA, and I was shooting for a music duo,
And
I showed up.
was partying.
Yeah, and Chase was just having the time of his life. He was the star of the video that I made. But I showed up, and I didn't bring like an external light or anything. I kind of wanted to just be way more low key, because who wants to be at a club and have some guy with a light in their face, right? And I show up and I'm like, oh shit, it's real dark in here.
It was dark.
So I bumped the ISO up to 12,800, which is astronomically high.
And in any other line of in brand or cameras
Just blow
previous,
up, huh?
it would just be grain.
Disintegrate?
It would just be like little specks of grain. It would be like if you put a sand, just blue sand
just
at it.
right
Just not usable footage.
No.
And for whatever reason, Sony made a dual ISO camera
Dual native
ISO, which means that there's
Optimal places, right?
Yes, two optimum places where you can put the ISO, which again is just artificial light. And the second one is at 12,800. So for whatever reason, you get to like 10,000, real grainy. Then you get, for whatever reason, you bump it up again to 12,800. It's just butter. And I was blown away at how like crisp this footage looked. And it was in the dark. It was basically like I'm looking in the dark.
You showed me the footage from your phone, and I was like, "Oh, that's gonna be tough." And then you showed me the video. I was like, "Oh,
yeah.
How'd you pull that off?"
Right. Yeah. Sony especially, they always kind of prided themselves on low light. They're very good at it.
And again, you got to think about like, oh shit, maybe I want to do concerts. Like, okay, you probably want to go with the Sony route.
You want to go with the Sony.
You know what I mean? You just kind of got to start thinking about these things when you're in rookie land and just be like, this is like the space I might want to dabble into, or like,
that's why it's important in that first and second tier is to really explore a lot of things.
You got to try everything. Try
a helicopter tour.
Shoot flowers. Go do a bunch of random shit. Shoot sports, like artists.
Did you say I used to shoot a ton of flowers.
Same. Well, that's what every rookie does. You go outside.
Why is that?
Because it's the easiest thing. You walk outside and you've seen everyone in their head. Like when think about when you're a little kid. You see
I shot so many
flowers. Stupid flowers. Yeah, that's what everybody does.
Go on a walk around the neighborhood.
I would go to the Wisconsin Arboretum and just shoot flowers.
Just rip flowers,
dude.
That's
great.
When we were in our little study abroad thing in Austria. We went to this flower museum. Just ripping them. Just
ripping flowers.
Just ripping flowers.
Why? I kind of want to shoot flowers right now.
Should we go outside?
Should we take the red and shoot some flowers?
Rip some 4K.
6K, dude. Get it right.
6K. Give me the next. We'll call this tier 4.5.
Wait, really quick back to that. The R5, just so you know, it does shoot 8K, and those are big files. And if you accidentally leave it in 8K and shoot your family Christmas video, it's gonna really fuck up your computer.
You said that like that happened to you.
No, it's just like I just like have heard stories.
You just heard that it could be bad.
Yeah.
Be on the lookout for the Utley family Christmas movie.
Out on all
It's a good
platforms.
one. Yeah, it's a good one.
We'll publicize it here.
Yeah.
So then moving on to then the next tier, which is like you said, 4.5, right? Still sticking with the Sony and Canon.
High level DSLR, but like the highest.
Or mirrorless.
Mirrorless.
We got the Sony A1 or the Canon 1DX Mark II or 3.
Just both they're flagship cameras of Sony and Canon respectively.
In the A1, like,
it's a monster.
So is the 1DX. Like, these things can shoot like so many. Have you ever heard a 1DX take a lot of photos? It sounds like a chainsaw. One more time. Yep, just like that. So it sounds like a great chainsaw. And the A1 can shoot in pitch black, and it can shoot like a movie. You can shoot a damn movie on the A1.
And you can also shoot the most incredible. Both of these cameras are the perfect hybrid camera.
The best of the best. Like, if we were talking about this when we travel full time one day again, like we're just gonna cop. We're just copping A1s.
Yeah.
You don't really need it unless you're like a full-on travel photographer and videographer, and you want to do both.
Or you just do, like my buddy Patrick has one. He just shoots all content for like big sky resorts. So a lot of photo, a lot of video. He's just constantly switching between. And like, it's just the perfect.
And it's just great, dude. It's a great little camera.
The thing is, these cameras will set you back $6,000 to $6,500 a piece. Yeah. So it's like,
just for the body, you also got to buy the lenses.
Exactly. Pretty expensive. Then
now this is Daddy Land. This is
tier 5.
This is where like you're
just separate the boys from the men.
Yeah, you're spending upwards of 10, like potentially on you're spending probably around 7.
It gets ridiculous.
Yeah, like realistically, like upwards of 7,000 just to make the damn thing work.
So what are we talking about?
We're talking about cinema cameras.
Okay, and when do you? I think a good question, and something that we really went through is when do you make the leap from a high-end DSLR to the cinema camera? And like when and what requires it, and like why is it worth it to buy it?
The requirements are just like one. Okay, I'm gonna fire off 3 pros. Maybe you go in a circle. You tell me the pros of a cinema camera. I'll tell you right now. It's bigger. You can charge more money if you bring the damn
Which is
thing.
ridiculous, but
It's
like
true.
the Red and the Airy brand, it just carries
100%.
weight on set.
Absolutely. There's things that you can do with audio that you're not capable of grabbing with like littler cameras.
XLRs,
inputs, and all kinds of shit like that. If you're on a shoot and like you have to show your client like a monitor on, like, you know, they're expecting monitors when you pay a certain amount for shit.
The client expects to sit in a video village with seats, and they have a big old monitor in front of them, and you can't like really live stream a video monitor out of a pea shooter. You need an SDI input, which really only happens on cinema cameras.
Yep. So it's just something to think about. And there's just a look and a feel that these cinema cameras have. Like that's
the main thing,
right? There's a look and a feel that the Red has, the C300 has, the Aries have, the FX9 has, that like other cameras just like don't have. And these cameras can shoot in fucked conditions and bring back stuff.
Yeah,
which is like, okay, here's the biggest
the
thing.
dynamic range is bonkers.
Have you guys ever watched a cinema camera or like a video, and you notice that the sky, they're inside and the sky is like perfect?
It's just
and also
perfectly exposed.
inside you can see their faces. It's a cinema camera. Little cameras can't have that. They don't have that range to pull that back.
And we should actually discuss dynamic range kind of throughout. Like dynamic range is like the biggest reason why a camera body gets expensive, in my opinion.
Yes. Okay, yeah, for sure.
Basically, is what it means is like there's less information in the highlights and less information in the shadows. So like you can really only, if someone's like perfectly exposed, you can see it, but like you're gonna lose all the darks or all like the highlights. Whereas the further you go up this line, like you get more information in the highlights. You can like see the blue sky as well as like the person in the shade, and they're both exposed properly. And cinema cameras really give you that. But like when you make that jump, it's kind of when like you're starting to get bigger jobs where like you're expected to bring a cinema camera on.
Bang.
And a lot of times you can rent, and you should start renting equipment. Especially, it's another idea for this when you're thinking about moving to that next tier. Just try renting the camera that you're thinking
and
about,
the glass and the glass,
and see how you feel. Like see how it feels in the hand. See what the build quality is like. See if you like want to go, oh, maybe I do like the Sony more, or maybe I like the Canon more. You're not gonna like the Nikon more.
Absolutely.
You're not gonna like it.
Promise. Go on ShareGrid, find the lenses you want to buy. They're like $50 for the day, and go do it. Also, if you want to do higher production stuff, rent the cameras from people. We will rent you the Red Komodo. I will rent you the Red Komodo right now if you DM me on Instagram. And
Me too.
Me and Chase will rent you the Red Komodo right now if you DM us. But
it's a great build.
It's a great build.
That's the other thing about the cinema cameras is it's with the tiers 1 through 4, you buy the body, you buy a lens, you're done. With the cinema cameras, you buy the body, which is like more of a brain, and then you have to build the whole thing, the whole body around the brain. You have to get the monitor, because it doesn't come with a monitor. You have to get fucking the cage that you can attach handles to, or else you can't hold the thing.
Then how much is everything for these cameras?
The cheapest thing you can buy is like $500. Like each cord, Braden's like, hey, we got to get this cord for the Red. I'm like, that's great. It's probably like $20. You know, I've bought a cord before, iPhone cable, like $10. It's like, yeah, it's like $350. I'm like, why, dude?
I love how you guys had a number in your head of like how much it was going to cost all in to get this Red, and it was probably cost
double.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing is like, we just did like a pretty big job. We have some cash, and we're like, we need to rebuild the Red. We did it wrong.
We like actually do. It's kind of it's kind of effed. Like
let's talk about that later.
Yeah,
it's very frustrating.
It's just pissing me off.
I would say also,
but it's worth it. But it is.
No,
because it also opens you up to like
so
bigger
much
work.
Yeah, so
like,
much shit.
On calls, I'm like, yeah, this is gonna cost that much, and they're like, what? I'm like, well, it comes with a fully built out Red camera, and they're like, oh, no doubt. Okay. We can do that number.
Also, when you get into this stuff, I mean, you have the Red, the Aries, the C200s, whatever, for cinema cameras, and then you have like the Leicas and the Hasselblad cameras for photo, and the difference is these cameras do one thing. You're either doing video or you're doing photo.
Right. Yeah. For all these cinema cameras that we were just talking about, that's just for video.
Yeah.
And
isn't
then
that crazy?
Just crazy.
You could pay $15,000 and like someone's
all of a sudden they're like, no photo.
No photos anymore.
And then if you want to just specialize in photos, you can get cooler results with the photo with like a Leica or like a medium format Hasselblad, which are so sexy. But you're just shooting photos. You're not shooting video with those anymore.
Yeah. You realize that there really is a difference, minuscule, but like goes back to gear actually does matter. Like there is a difference between a Red camera and a T5i, obviously.
Yeah.
But once you kind of train your eye and you've done more within video and photo, like that's when you can really tell the difference. Seeing the quality that your guys' Red Komodo produces is insane, especially in shitty conditions like middle of the day where typically the highlights would be completely blown out. It's insane.
It looks
like we're in a studio.
It looks awesome in the middle of the day for some reason.
So to finish up,
So run it back. Yeah, what do we got here?
let's talk about now that you have your camera and your lens. Boom, you're ready to start taking some photos. While we're talking about gear, let's list off some things that other accessories or other things that you should have in your backpack or in your gear bag that you kind of need that maybe you're not thinking about.
Do we want to do this in like a little roundabout?
Yeah,
like
little round
snake
robin,
draft type
little
thing?
bang,
Let's do a
bang.
round. Yeah, let's do a round robin.
All right, I'll start.
All right, bang it.
You need a camera backpack or a camera bag. You need something to put your camera in.
Yep.
And
the lenses and the filters and the batteries and the SDs.
exactly. I would recommend a company called Douchebags. That's what I use.
They just go by DB now.
Oh, really?
They just changed it.
Oh.
Which everyone's going to keep calling them douchebags. Keep calling them douchebags.
Yeah. I really like their bags,
Isn't that dumb?
or Lower Pro is another company that makes
Peak
good
Design
ones.
also sick.
Great.
I think if you're gonna step in video, a way to quickly up your production value, and it's never been easier to like hop into this space, is to buy a drone. I think it's a great little thing. Aerial shot, and don't overuse it. You know,
Don't overuse.
don't overuse in your videos. People don't want to see a minute of drone montages.
I have a horror story. This kid in my high school, dude, he had a drone, so he's like, I'm a filmmaker now. So then he flew only drone stuff, and when he was on the ground, used the drone as a ground cam. Would turn it on and just hold it and like.
The only good thing about that, the only good thing
Do you want to hear something hilarious?
is there's a built-in gimbal, so it's smooth as fuck.
It is. He's also like now like a world famous drone pilot. Like kid that made like the bowling video thing and everything.
That's him?
That's funny.
And now,
Oh,
and
that's
now,
pretty
like,
funny.
so I can talk shit because he's like making probably so much money and like so very successful. That's
great.
He did the Dallas Cowboys one too.
Yeah,
He's
he
lit.
does. Yeah, he does like everything.
The cool thing about drones is, and I mean, it goes for just all camera equipment these days, but when we were coming up and first starting out, it's kind of the same time that drones kind of became a thing.
Yeah.
And I remember my first drone was like a Phantom 3, and I was just so excited to just have the option of getting a drone in the sky. So big, and the image quality was like not that great. What you can get image quality wise
dude.
for like not crazy expensive is insane.
They're like Mavic Air 2
Yeah.
rips,
Go
dude.
do yourself a favor and go to DJI on Black Friday and do some damage.
It's also just fun, dude. It's
so,
so
fun. It's so fun. Chase and I love flying those drones. Okay.
Okay, kind of a similar. I'm gonna go with a gimbal. You can
Okay.
just it opens you up to a totally new variety of shots. You can all of a sudden get those crazy, especially when you have continuous autofocus, like in these DSLRs. You can get crazy like push-ins, like 360s around people. It also just like inspires creativity. I was on the Kia shoot and I was shooting everything in this certain kind of way, and then I was like, I'm gonna put it on the gimbal just to see if it sparks anything. And then all of a sudden, I was like doing completely different moves and stuff. It was really fun. It was like unlocked a little bit of creativity for me.
I love using a gimbal.
Kostas is kind of the gimbal
He's
guy.
low-key gimbal guy.
He's so good at it.
Thanks, guys.
He's definitely gimbal guy. Yeah, low-key.
As far as the companies go for that, DJI.
DJI, Movi Pro if you're trying to go for like a bigger thing, but it takes a lot more time to set up.
Zhiyun.
Yeah,
Zion
Zion
Crane
Crane.
is like another,
I would say DJI and Zion Crane are kind of like
especially Zion for like the smaller stuff. Although the Ronin SC
Yeah.
for the smaller stuff is also a great option. And then you can kind of go up with the Ronin family.
Zion actually also has a really good phone gimbal. So like if you're still using your phone but you want to kind of up your phone quality, like get a phone gimbal
sure.
and then you can get real smooth shots and get real cinematic. All right, next up, kind of lighting.
Very
right?
important, like the most important thing.
Probably.
The more you get into the weeds of making videos, the more you realize it's like, oh, the whole thing was just lights the whole time. That's
Yeah.
like why that shot was good.
Yeah.
If you're just trying to make social media content or you're kind of just starting out making content around your house, a ring light's really good, especially if like
Amazon.
Amazon, especially if you're filming yourself and you're making TikToks and Instagram videos.
Kostas loves ring light. He still uses it every day.
Yeah. Also, dude, just makes you look sexy.
It
I'm not
does.
gonna lie,
It
man.
does. It
Sometimes
does.
you get in front of that ring light, you're like, God, I'm
It's
feeling
like,
myself.
it's like when you go to Vegas in the hotel
the
bathroom.
mirrors have the
those
lights all around
yeah,
them.
It's just the same shit as a ring light.
Yeah.
They got it figured out.
Ring light. If you're leaning into photography, get a flash. It's
strobe.
nice.
Little
Yeah.
strobe
nice.
action. Yep.
You can get an LED panel like a Lume Cube for video, a smaller one that you can either put on top of your camera or on your gimbal as well, and that kind of provides you to shoot at night. There's lower tier lights. You can find something on Amazon for maybe, $200 for like a two light
That's
setup.
probably, I bet, what you're gonna spend to get just like entry level lights.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like that baseline type of thing to get like soft, like a nice soft light, like around a couple $100.
I have two lights by a company called GVM.
Yeah, those are nice.
Yeah, they're cool. I mean, there's like a time and a place. They're not like amazing, but like if you need some lights, they'll light a subject. And then you kind of get into the bigger stuff with the aperture.
Yeah, we love aperture lights.
We just got a aperture 300.
Aperture also has the cheaper ones. They're called Amaran. Yeah, they have like a cheaper brand that they made. It's still aperture, but it's called Amaran.
The apertures are crazy. They kind of are like the DJI of lights. Like it was like you could really only get like airy lights and like it was like super expensive and like there was like drones like before DJI, they just weren't like consumer facing, and that's basically like aperture. It's like we're gonna give you the quality of like an airy sky panel, but it's just gonna be a 600D and it's gonna be like a couple grand. And they're so easy to use, and it's just like
so
they're also like from the same country.
Crushed it, dude. They just crushed it. They did so well.
Yeah, we just got the 300D. I used it today. Forgot the C stand.
Right.
So I had to.
That's the thing. The nicer lights you get, the more stuff. It's similar to the cinema cameras. You need like its own stand that you have to buy separately. And yada yada.
Just classic. I've just.
Cause been taking some L's lately.
Yeah, dude.
Head in the ass. It's okay.
Yeah. All right, B, hit us with another one.
Okay, I'm gonna go with, if you do purchase one of these higher end cameras, they usually sometimes come with ND filters. But in the other cameras, basically this is just a shade for your lens that allows you put it on the end of your lens, and it just allows you to shoot wide open. So you can crank up your aperture. You can have that a little bit wide. It's basically like a sunglass for your lens if you're out there in broad daylight. That's a great example. Neutral density filter. Great cop.
And then it allows you to like keep it, like when I was just starting out, I would just crank the shutter because I wanted to shoot. I told you I stuck as wide open as I could at all times, so I just crank the shutter.
I cranked the shutter for years, dude.
Oh, I cranked the shutter until like last year.
Cranking the shutter, for those listening, it just makes your footage look fast.
It makes the movement look not right. The motion doesn't look
looks unnatural because you don't have any motion blur. So having that ND filter allows you to shoot with the 180 degree shutter rule.
Right. Which just basically means the shutter number should be double your frame rate.
Bang. There it is.
So you're shooting at 24, it should be like 50. It should be 48, but usually it only goes to 50.
Yep.
Not with the red though. It's no big deal.
Another thing with filters for photography, it allows you to dabble with long exposure photography.
Yep.
Which is another thing that's
like...
What?
In the middle of the day.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, exactly. But even so, dude, like, let's say you want to get like a 10-second or 20-second long exposure shot. That's open for a while. Lots of lights coming in. Sometimes you need an ND filter for that.
I'm going to go with tripod.
Ooh.
Now, there's a lot of... I was in the camp, I'm like, tripod, just get a cheap piece of plastic that holds your camera up. Because I was like, that's what a tripod is. I've then kind of gone into like fluid head tripods for video, which are ridiculously expensive for what they do, in my opinion.
So silly.
You just pan it and it's like kind of smooth. Like sick. Charge me $10,000? No, dude. But also for photo, especially as I've gotten more into car photography, a photo tripod's really nice because you can do bracketing where you can shoot like 3 different exposures and it all compiles it into one. Especially if you're shooting interior is really important because like the exterior is so much more bright than the interior of the car. You can also do a long exposure like time lapses on the tripod. Yeah,
tripods clutch. Also, if you're doing social media content and you don't have anyone to shoot for you, you can do self-portraits.
Right.
Dang.
Also, they have the little Gorilla Pods that Casey Neistat always used.
I had one of those. Those are great. Gorilla Pods.
Just gives you like a little longer arm. This is incredible type stuff.
Yeah, and you can just kind of like set them up if you were to do things and you want to film yourself. Like, that little. I had the Gorilla Pod forever. I used that for years. And we still use one.
We still. It was on my
Chase's
shitty mic. I have a new mic, guys.
Oh yeah, that's great. We forgot to talk about that.
Do I sound good? Do I sound good?
It low key probably, but definitely does sound way better.
It probably sounds better. Actually, probably sounds about the same.
I'm gonna go external hard drive to back up all of your footage and photos because that's really important.
And the file sizes get big, especially as you get a nicer, bigger camera. The file sizes get big. Brayden, how large? If you shot on the red all day, how much space are you using up?
Like 2 terabytes.
Like 2 terabytes. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's absurd. That is a nicer thing about having a camera that is like just like a DSLR mirrorless camera. They just don't take up as much space
because of the codecs.
Yeah,
and you really crunch them down.
Yeah, they really do crunch them down. Check out Lacey if you're looking at hard drives. I really like the Lacey hard drives. And then later down the line, check out if you have like really intense footage
that's big and you need to transfer it quick.
Stuff like that. You want faster render times. You want to edit off of something. Check out an SSD drive,
which is a solid state drive. This just means it's quicker. There's less moving parts inside of the hard drive.
There's no moving disk.
Yeah. Also, like when you get into a camera that can shoot like like 4K 120. It's just a larger file size.
Yep.
More. Yeah.
It's a you always want to have a nice mic, like a nice shotgun mic or a nice lav mic.
great.
Talk
Yeah.
about mics.
Audio is super important. I think it's.
I would consider Braden the audio expert of this house for sure.
Yes, 100%.
Without a doubt. So
Really?
I would.
Don't talk to me about
you-
audio.
you-
I fuck up audio every time.
You tell me what audio is, dude.
well, like audio is just like 50% of the battle. 'cause
It is. It's half of a video.
It's half the video, and it's really easy to see when someone's audio is bad. Really easy to mess up audio.
Really
so
easy
I
to
think
mess it up.
once you can, if you get more money for your shoots, like just get an audio guy. It's so much
Right.
easier.
Although we hired an audio guy,
kind of-
and if you're listening,
dude, you
do better.
You had hot audio, bro.
Really?
God damn it. Yes.
dude.
Yes.
like change it. That was like a big job.
Like fix it. It's like the whole
We
thing.
paid you like a lot of money.
Yeah.
but it's all
Like
good.
Jesus Christ. Anyways,
I also hired a shitty audio guy.
Really?
And I didn't. They scrapped the whole shoot. They literally hired a whole other production team
Oh, for this with the lens.
for beats.
Oh, right. Hey, if you're an audio guy that's pretty good, contact us because
Just shoot me
clearly we're in need.
fly me a DM. Jesus. Yeah. Audio is super important. You definitely want to factor in if you're ever going to go somewhere and there's just a chance it might be windy.
Oh, yeah.
Get the windsock thing. They're so cheap. It's like 10 or 15 bucks on Amazon for whatever mic that you're going to use. And just have good audio for the love of God. Because you're listening. Here's the thing. Most people with video quality is super subjective. I could show most people a phone video and they're like, that's great. I can show the whole population shitty audio.
Yeah.
They're going to tell it's shitty audio.
Because it hurts.
Or
If it's too hot, it's just like
it hurts. It hurts to hear. And there's things you can do in post to fix it. Just learn how to fix it and just learn how to not F it up.
It's also kind of sexy. I'm sure you guys hear us talking
In
with
these
these
sure
nice
SM7Bs.
mics. Sounds nice.
Yeah, sounds
baby.
great.
Okay, I'm gonna hit the last one.
Give
Yeah.
it to me.
I'm gonna go with on these. Oh, dude. Oh, I'm just gonna go with like this. Kind of gonna be overarching, but I'm gonna initially say like camera support, as in like sliders or dollies.
Okay.
I've been on a lot of commercial shoots lately. It's just a slider all the time. If you watch closely, the camera's always like really smoothly panning to the left or like moving to the left or tracking to the left. On the commercial I was on today, dude, they had like the Bolt like motion capture cameras or motion control. Sorry, they're freaking insane. That's like, okay, you know in Humble when like he like looks to the left and the camera like moves and he like looks to the right and it's all like controlled and stuff.
Kendrick, yeah.
Yeah.
Kendrick, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know. For those listening that didn't know Humble, you know what I mean?
Right.
Kendrick
I just
Lamar
said that music video, didn't I? Yeah, it's
yeah.
embarrassing. I just like,
Yeah,
it's
no.
Kendrick Lamar, he's the man. So camera support that isn't not a gimbal exactly, because when it's like control like that, like a slider, I'm using a slider tomorrow. It is really professional. It has like that kind of professional sheen of almost like a tripod. Whereas if the gimbal, sometimes you get like a little wacky stuff. It can feel like a little unprofessional if it's not done perfectly.
Yeah, I agree.
Go for it.
One last little thing is when you start using these cameras, you'll sometimes get like dust and specks that pop up on your sensor. Easy fix if you have a lens pen or like an air shooter thing to like clean. When you take off the lens from the camera, like, spray some air onto like the sensor of your lens and your camera to get that dust off.
Absolutely. We could clearly keep going.
We could do this
for a second. I want to get all into the specs of like the FX6, just particular, like FX6, like 20 freaking 18. Like I want to get into there, but we're not going to do that. But if you really want us to go like proper nerd, especially like the cinema camera stuff,
You just drop
some
Drop a
DMs
DM.
and we will. But for now, this is by far our longest podcast. We should probably make it 2 parts. We're gonna wrap this up.
Yeah, I think this was incredible. You have so much value in this episode.
Depending on where you are, just like find your spot.
Yeah,
baby.
find your spot in your career where you're at, and just kind of like listen to it, think about it. What we just talked about, I literally have like charged for before in like a course that I've made. Like this is really important stuff that we just laid out so much valuable information that's free. So hopefully, if you can share it with a friend that might need it or that might be interested in this stuff, because it really does help us out more than you know. And lob a screenshot up on your story. We love seeing those.
And DM us if you have any like gear related questions. I love talking about gear.
DM us all the time. We'll always be down to talk about gear, and we'll see you guys all next week. Peace out.
Peace.